It started as just another quiet evening. The house was calm, with the soft hum of the ceiling fan and the distant chirping of birds outside the window. I had just settled into my room, not expecting anything unusual. But then she walked in, my stepdaughter. She didn't knock, didn't say anything at first. Just walked over, sat quietly on the edge of my bed, and looked around like she was searching for something that couldn't be seen. I turned down the volume of the show I was watching and waited for her to speak. She glanced at me, her eyes tired but tender, and softly asked, "Can we just stay like this forever?" The way she said it, it wasn't just words. There was something in her voice, in the way she curled up slightly with her knees pulled to her chest, that made me pause. It felt like she was holding something back, something deeper than just needing a little company. We hadn't always been close. She had built up walls when I first came into her life, and I respected that. I didn't try to replace anyone or force a bond. I just showed up day after day, moment after moment, being there when she needed me and giving space when she didn't. But this moment felt different. It was as if the walls had finally come down, or maybe they had just cracked enough to let a little light in. I didn't want to make it awkward, so I didn't rush to ask questions. I just nodded and said, "Sure, we can." But inside I knew something was bothering her. No teenager says something like that out of nowhere. I could see the emotions dancing behind her eyes, uncertainty, maybe fear, definitely sadness. It wasn't about the room or the comfort of a quiet night. It was about something else entirely. Her voice broke the silence again, barely above a whisper. "It's the only place I feel safe sometimes." That one sentence made my heart tighten. What had been happening when I wasn't looking? Had I missed the signs? Her mom was out for the evening, and it was just the two of us in the house. I could feel the weight of her presence beside me, as if she had been carrying something heavy for far too long, and was finally ready to let someone else hold a part of it. I didn't push her to explain. Instead, I asked if she wanted tea, just to shift the moment and let her breathe. She nodded, and I stepped out to the kitchen, but my mind was racing. I had so many questions. Was something going on at school, with friends, maybe even something deeper at home that she hadn't shared yet? By the time I returned with 2 cups in my hands, she had laid back on the bed, staring at the ceiling. She looked calm, but her silence was full of unsaid things. I placed the cup beside her and sat down again. I was about to ask her what was really going on when she suddenly turned to me and said something that changed everything. She turned to me, eyes soft but serious, and said, "Sometimes I wish I could just disappear. Not forever, just for a while." Her voice cracked a little, and even though she tried to smile after saying it, I could see she was holding back more than I could imagine. I sat frozen for a moment, the warmth of the tea in my hands suddenly forgotten. I wanted to ask her what she meant, but I also didn't want to say the wrong thing and make her shut down. This wasn't the first time I had noticed small changes in her. Over the past few weeks, she had started spending more time in her room. She avoided long conversations, and when she did speak, her answers were short, guarded. Her laughter, which once came easily, even if just over silly videos or late-night snacks, had faded into quiet nods and polite smiles. I told myself it was just teenage stuff, maybe stress from school. But now, sitting here beside her in this moment, I knew it was more than that. She took a sip of the tea still lying back, then asked, "Do you ever feel like you're trying so hard to be okay that no one even notices you're not?" That hit me hard. Not just because of the weight in her words, but because I had felt that too once. Before I became a step-parent, before I had any kind of family of my own, I had gone through dark patches where I smiled because I had to, not because I meant it. I wanted to say the right thing, something comforting, something that could ease even a little of what she was carrying. But before I could speak, she turned back toward the ceiling and whispered, "It's not your fault. I know you try." Those words caught me off guard. I wasn't even sure what she meant yet, but it sounded like she was preparing me for something deeper, something that might hurt to hear. That's when the quietness of the room started to feel heavier. The ticking clock on the wall grew louder, and the soft hum of the fan above us now seemed distant. I started piecing together moments from the last few months. The time she'd come home quieter than usual. The day she threw away a necklace her mom had given her, and said she didn't want it anymore. The way she looked at herself in the mirror, not with vanity, but like she was searching for someone she didn't recognize. The truth was, I didn't know everything she had been through before I entered her life. I had been with her mom for a few years now, but those early chapters of her life, the ones shaped by her biological father, by moving houses, by friendships lost or broken, I wasn't there for those. And maybe that's what she was finally ready to talk about. Or maybe not. Maybe she just needed someone to sit beside her in silence, to let her feel safe enough to start letting go. I wanted to ask more, to understand. But just as I opened my mouth, she reached out and placed her hand lightly over mine. She didn't look at me. She just held on. And in that simple, quiet gesture, I felt everything. Her fear, her confusion, her longing to be seen, to be understood. I didn't know what she was going to say next, but I knew this wasn't just a random night. Something was coming. Her hand stayed on mine for a moment longer, like she was trying to gather the courage to speak, or maybe just needing the silence to feel less alone. I didn't move. I didn't rush her. Sometimes silence can say more than words ever could. But inside I could feel the tension building, like standing at the edge of something unknown, and not knowing whether to step forward or stay still. She finally spoke, her voice low, like she was afraid someone else might hear. When I say I want to disappear, I don't mean, like, leave forever. I just get tired. Tired of pretending everything's okay when it's not. Her eyes looked up toward the ceiling again, but I could tell her thoughts were somewhere else entirely. Everyone sees the version of me they want. At school, I'm the quiet girl who doesn't cause trouble. At home, I'm supposed to be the one who's adjusting just fine. But inside it's like, I'm drowning and no one even sees it. I felt a knot form in my chest. She wasn't just going through a phase. This was deep. It wasn't just sadness, it was something layered, maybe something built up over time. I thought about her relationship with her mom lately. They hadn't been fighting, but there was definitely a distance. Her mom, caught up with work and trying to balance everything, often assumed silence meant peace. But I was starting to realize that in this house, quiet wasn't comfort, it was a warning. I asked gently, is it something that's been happening at school? Or is it something here? She didn't answer right away. Instead, she pulled the sleeves of her hoodie over her hands and clutched them tight. It's everything, she finally said. School's a mess. People talk behind my back. They say I've changed. And here, sometimes I feel like I don't belong. Like this house isn't mine. That hit hard. I always tried to make her feel like this was her home, not just a place she lived. I thought we were doing okay, that I was slowly becoming a safe space for her. But maybe I'd missed something. Maybe she was struggling to find where she fit, caught between her past and the life we were all still trying to build together. She continued, her voice barely audible now. I miss the version of my mom who used to notice when something was wrong without me saying it. And I miss feeling like a kid. Like I could just be sad without needing a reason. There it was, the core of it. The longing, the grief, the confusion of growing up in a world that keeps changing, where even the people closest to you can start to feel far away. Outside the room, the sound of the front door echoed faintly. Her mom was home. She didn't move. She didn't seem to want to. Her hand gripped mine a little tighter, like she wasn't ready to face anyone else just yet. And in that moment, I realized there was more going on than I had thought. Layers we hadn't even touched yet. A truth still waiting to be spoken. And whatever it was, it hadn't come out, not yet. The sound of the front door closing echoed through the house, and still she didn't move. Her hand stayed wrapped around mine like it was the only thing keeping her grounded. I could hear her mom walking through the hallway, dropping her keys onto the kitchen counter like she always did. The normal rhythm of home. But this night was anything but normal. I could feel it. Something was about to shift. She sat up a little and wiped her face quickly with her sleeve, as if trying to erase any signs that she'd been crying. Her voice was steadier now, but there was still a tremble beneath it. "Promise me you won't say anything yet," she said, looking at me. "I'm not ready for her to know." I nodded slowly. I wanted to ask why, but I didn't push. Instead, I waited, giving her the space she clearly needed. The door creaked open just a bit, and her mom peeked in. "Hey, you two okay?" Her eyes scanned the room, and for a split second she looked concerned. But my stepdaughter quickly smiled. A soft, fake smile that only I could tell wasn't real. "Yeah, just talking," she said. Her mom nodded, said something about heating up leftovers, and left us alone again. As soon as the door shut, her smile faded. "I do that all the time," she whispered. Smile so no one asks questions. It's easier that way. Her voice was tight, like she was holding herself together with string. I didn't know what to say, so I just stayed quiet, hoping the silence would make her feel safe enough to keep going. She reached into her hoodie pocket and pulled out a small photo, faded, creased. She stared at it for a moment before handing it to me. It was her, maybe 6 or 7 years old, sitting on a swing, her arms around a man I'd never seen before. "That's my dad," she said, her eyes still on the photo. "The last picture we ever took together." She paused. "He left. No note. No goodbye. One day he was just gone." Suddenly it all started to make more sense. The way she clung to moments of stillness. The way she feared change, feared opening up. It wasn't just the present that weighed her down. It was everything she'd never been able to understand about her past. Her voice turned colder, but it shook more. "People don't get it. They say things like, 'He probably had his reasons,' or 'You're better off now.' But they weren't there when I waited by the door every night thinking maybe he'd come back. They didn't see how my mom stopped talking about him like he never existed. And I was just supposed to move on." My chest ached. I could see now this wasn't just about school pressure or feeling out of place. This was grief that had never been given a voice. Trauma buried under years of silence. She took a breath like she was about to say more, but then we both heard footsteps approaching again. She stiffened, panic flashing in her eyes. And then the door opened. The door opened slowly, and her mom stepped inside holding a plate with 2 slices of toast. "Thought you might be hungry," she said gently, looking between the two of us. She smiled, but something in her eyes shifted when she noticed the photo still in my hand. Her step faltered for just a second. "Where did you find that?" she asked, her voice tightening almost instantly. My stepdaughter froze. Her body went stiff, her hands clenched, and her eyes dropped to the floor. I could feel the change in the air, like the calm we had built in the room was cracking apart. I looked at the photo again, then back at her mom, whose expression was now unreadable. "She gave it to me," I said carefully, trying to keep the mood steady. Her mom didn't answer right away. She set the plate down on the side table and crossed her arms, leaning slightly against the wall. "I thought I threw that away," she muttered under her breath, more to herself than to either of us. My stepdaughter's voice came out suddenly, sharp and trembling. "Why did you do that? Why did you try to erase him?" Her mom looked stunned for a second, then defensive. "I wasn't trying to erase anything," she said quickly. "I was trying to protect you. You were too young to understand." "I'm not too young now," she snapped. "You never told me why he left. You never told me what really happened. You just shut it all down and expected me to forget. But I didn't forget. I couldn't." The room was heavy now, thick with everything that had been unsaid for years. Her mom looked at me, almost like she wanted me to step in, to help soften the moment. But I didn't. This wasn't mine to fix. It was a door that had needed opening for too long. She stood up from the bed, pacing slightly, her voice rising just enough to let the truth finally slip. "He didn't just leave, did he?" she said, eyes locked on her mom. "There was more. Something happened, and you've been hiding it from me." Her mother's face paled. Her lips pressed together like she was weighing a decision, deciding whether to lie or let it all come out. "There were reasons," she finally said. "Things you didn't need to carry as a child. But maybe you do deserve to know now." Then came the words none of us expected. "Your father didn't leave on his own." The silence after that sentence was louder than anything else. I looked at my stepdaughter. Her face drained of color, eyes wide, breath caught. Her mother looked scared, like she just torn open something that couldn't be undone. "What do you mean?" she whispered. Her mom didn't answer right away. She sat down slowly in the chair across from us, her hands shaking slightly. "He was forced to leave because of something he did. Something I didn't know how to explain to you." The ground beneath us shifted, and that's when we heard the knock at the door. The knock at the door froze all of us in place. 3 short raps, firm, deliberate. My stepdaughter looked at me, panic flickering in her eyes, then back at her mother, whose face had gone completely still. She didn't even blink. I stood slowly, unsure if I should answer it, but her mom got up first, almost on instinct. "Stay here," she said quickly, and left the room. We listened to her footsteps echo down the hallway. Then the quiet creak of the front door opening. Muffled voices followed, low at first, then more tense. I couldn't make out the words, but the tone was sharp, uneasy. My stepdaughter stood beside me now, holding her arms close to her chest like she was trying to shield herself. "Do you think it's him?" she whispered. "Do you think it's my dad?" Before I could respond, the voices grew louder. A man's voice now, rough, strained. Her mother's voice trembled as she said, "You shouldn't be here." Then the door slammed. Heavy footsteps came rushing toward the hallway. I stepped out just in time to see him, tall, a little older now, worn down by time, but definitely the man from the photo. My stepdaughter followed behind me slowly, her breath caught in her throat. He froze when he saw her. "You look just like her," he said, eyes wet. "I've waited so long to see you." Her mom stepped between them, arms raised like she was trying to block a storm. "No. You don't get to walk in here like this. Not after everything." He looked at her, anger flashing. "You think you get to decide that after what you did?" My heart dropped. The story was unraveling fast now, and the truth wasn't what any of us had expected. My stepdaughter's voice cracked. "Someone tell me the truth. Please. I need to know." Her mom turned, pain written all over her face. "He didn't just leave," she said, voice trembling. "I made him. I found out something I thought would destroy you if I let him stay." He stepped forward. "She thought I was dangerous. But I wasn't. Yes, I made mistakes, but I didn't hurt anyone. She got scared. Took you away. Disappeared without letting me explain." Her mom looked down. "I was trying to protect you. There were rumors, people said things about him, and I panicked. I didn't know who to believe. So I cut him off. I thought it was safer that way." The air was thick with emotion. Years of confusion, pain, and longing all crashing together in one moment. My stepdaughter stood between them now, torn. "You both lied to me," she whispered. "All these years. And none of it was the way I thought." Then, just when the storm seemed to calm, her dad reached into his coat and handed her a folded envelope. "This was for you. I wrote it the day I left, but I never got the chance to give it to you." She took it, hands shaking, eyes wide. Her mom watched in silence. And just before anyone could speak again, she opened the envelope, pulled out the note, then froze. Inside wasn't just a letter. It was a birth certificate, with someone else's name listed under father. The silence after she unfolded the birth certificate felt heavier than anything that had come before it. She stared at the paper, reading the name over and over, her lips moving slightly like she couldn't believe what she was seeing. Then she looked up, first at the man who claimed to be her father, then at her mother, whose face had turned pale. "This isn't your name," she whispered, voice barely there. The man stepped forward, confused. "What are you talking about?" She held the paper out with shaking hands. "It says someone else. Someone named Michael Harris." Her mom let out a long, slow breath and sat down on the arm of the couch, her shoulders slumping like a secret she'd been carrying had finally broken her. "I never meant for you to find out like this," she said, barely able to meet her daughter's eyes. "I thought it would be easier if I let you believe he was your father. He raised you for those first few years. He loved you. And I was afraid that telling you the truth would shatter everything." "But why now?" her daughter asked. "Why wait until all of this, until I was old enough to feel like I've been living someone else's life?" Her mother wiped at her eyes and looked at both of us. "Because I was ashamed. Michael. He didn't want anything to do with us after you were born. He walked away. And when I met David," she gestured to the man still standing stunned, "he was the only one who cared. He stepped in. He tried to be a father even though he didn't have to." The man David finally spoke. "I didn't know. I thought I was her dad." His voice cracked. "All this time, and it wasn't true?" "I didn't lie to you," her mother said softly. "I truly believed you were better for her. And maybe I convinced myself you were her father in every way that mattered." My stepdaughter sat back on the bed, eyes staring ahead. She didn't cry. She didn't shout. She just sat there, like her whole identity had been rewritten in the span of minutes. I sat beside her, not saying anything. I just wanted her to know she wasn't alone in this moment. After a long pause, she finally whispered, "I think I just wanted the truth. Even if it hurts." Then she looked at her mom. You should have told me. I had a right to know. Her mom nodded, eyes full of tears. You're right. I can't change the past, but I want to make things right. However long it takes. She turned to David. I don't know who my real father is. But you were there when I needed someone. And maybe that means more than biology. He didn't respond right away. He just walked over and gently hugged her. Not tightly, not with force, just enough to say, I'm here still. That night didn't fix everything. But it opened doors that had been shut for too long. And sometimes healing begins not with answers, but with the courage to finally ask the right questions. And in the quiet afterward, when she leaned against me and softly said again, Can we just stay like this for a while? I finally understood what she meant. She didn't want the past erased. She just wanted to feel safe, seen, and loved in the present. And now she finally was.